Hi, I'm Rachel Whitefield, certified life coach, and with me is our resident trashy TV tease, Jackie Black. Thank you for joining us on another fabulous episode of Whiskey Bent
Spellbound with Black.
and Whitefield.
Yay, we are
Yay.
back. What are you drinking?
Oh, Jackie, I am so glad you asked. We have been paying the whiskey budget lately, but I have this left over in my refrigerator, previously, in my freezer, previously, showcased on the show. Elevation 5003 Distillery, bourbon straight whiskey small batch, distilled and bottled by Elevation 5003 Distillery in Fort Collins, Colorado. We have a Colorado whiskey right here.
I love that.
Yes. So batch 14, bottle 139.
Well, I have been really just sipping on my Norwegian liquor. I was told that this is actually pronounced Maiken.
Mike and not my chin.
So,
Hmm.
not Meechin, not like whatever else I thought it was.
I found them online to link them
Yeah.
into the show notes, which was
Oh,
fine. So
good.
they did have an English website translation, which was fantastic. We're happy to support them on this show, but I was like, I'm not even, I know how it's spelled because you spelled it on the last show, but I was like, I'm not
Yeah.
even going to attempt to say this.
Just Maiken. Just
Okay.
Maiken.
Miken.
Which I love. Makes it very nice and simple. But
Hmm.
this is from the remote island of Myken, and it is made from desalinated Norwegian Arctic seawater, and it is delicious.
Delicious. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Do you have ice melts this week?
you know what? I don't have ice molds,
Oh,
but this is not ADHD's problem. This was on purpose because I
oh.
was gifted these little whiskey stones that I've been put in the freezer. So whiskey stones, you're supposed to freeze them, and then they don't dilute your whiskey. So I've got quite a few because I like really cold whiskey, but this was in my freezer. So now I have these little and I have these little stones too. They're
God,
like they're
so
like
great.
they're like large die. So I just figure I'll put a couple of these in my drinky drink with I brought my very own, like my own glitter, not my own glitter, but fancy
Yeah,
sprinkles
yeah, yeah.
glitter. But I brought glitter over as well. So again, I made a choice to use whiskey stones on purpose today to see
Interesting.
how that works. So let's just put some
I can't wait.
literal
I can't wait to hear.
cold rocks in
Well,
the
they look cool as fuck in
they
your glass.
do. I mix it's like when you're doing fashion, you're like mixing patterns. I'm like mixing shapes because they're from two different companies. So
Okay.
I was like, okay, so Mimi, my sister, as we call her on the show, she's just like, she doesn't drink anymore. So she was just like, hey, I have this. Do you want them? They're taking space in my freezer. And I was like, I would love for those to take space in my freezer.
Yeah,
So
I will take those
I will take those
immediately.
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 So yeah, so I've got some that look like hockey pucks and some that look like dye. So
Love that.
just we're gonna do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, making room for more real estate in my makeup. So I'm just gonna do but onto the glitter today. I am using Fancy Sprinkles Prism Powder in Tourmaline Pink. This is hot pink.
I love the tourmaline
Hot
pink.
pink. So
I personally have the sterling silver in my cup.
it's so funny. I have nails on, so I'm just scooping with the very tip of my stiletto
Mine
nail.
is the luster powder, so it literally looks like a potion. And then also look at it against my nails. Can you
Ooh,
even? Because I can't.
those are great. I'm obsessed with your nails too. So, because I'm back in the industry, baby. All right.
Love it.
Let's go over the rocks, the little rocks. Ooh, my whiskey is so frozen, it's coming out like syrupy. A little so
Mhm.
slow. Mm, gonna
My goodness. This is glittery.
glittering.
Ooh. Ooh, that's really pretty though. That
It
is
is
so
really
pretty.
pretty. I know. The shimmer
Well,
powder is nice, but sometimes when you switch back to the regular glitter, you're like, this is why I loved it at the beginning.
clinkies.
Clinkies down the hatch.
Mhm.
Mm, yes.
This is so freaking good.
Let's see. Handcraft a small batch grain to glass. Each small batch of our spirit is handmade from corn, barley, and rye. We spiritedly mash, ferment, distill, and bottle all of our spirits at the distillery. Well done, 5003 Distillery. Elevation 5003 Distillery. Oh, how's
Oh,
yours? You feeling good? Because I feel like you have to go through yours so like save it for special occasions. You can't just get it
you can
since
I
you're in
can't just get
Norway.
it. And
Mhm.
like I'm looking at the website right now. I don't even think I can order it.
I know.
Oh, maybe from whiskey.com I can.
Yeah.
But I just love their website. It's so
Oh
beautiful.
no, you have to go to Norway again. Oh no.
Oh,
Mm.
it's so beautiful there. It's ridiculous.
I
Like
know.
I have no words.
I've added it to the list now of places I have to go.
It's a have to go place
You
for
sold me
sure.
on it. You sold me on it.
For sure. It is
Mhm.
it is absolutely the place that you want to go if you just want to like see breathtaking beauty
Yes.
in a natural landscape. It's crazy. I can't imagine wanting to leave there ever.
From living in the Seattle metro area for 5 years,
Mhm.
I could imagine wanting to leave there to, get some sun in the wintertime. But
Well,
however,
Norway isn't like that year round. Like I thought it was going to be kind of gloomy, maybe like cold,
No,
but
I'm just
definitely.
saying that they only have daylight for 8 hours in the winter.
Ah,
Like the fact that it's like not the
yeah.
weather itself, but the fact that there is just a lack of daylight.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the summertime, I'm sure it's glorious. The sun doesn't set till 11 o'clock at night.
Oh no. Okay, so here's the thing. I was looking at buying this whiskey.
Uh-huh.
The prices are insane.
Okay, what does it cost to get this whiskey shipped to you?
This what this website that I just found, it costs $230.
Oh, $230
I'm
hairs.
am I drinking super expensive whiskey right
Well, do you remember what it cost you for that bottle in Norwegian?
now? $40?
Well, it's locally sourced.
Listen, all of these websites that I'm seeing, all of this is over $200 for this
Wow. I
bottle. Wow, I'm going to
somehow it just
Norway.
became really bougie. Risky.
I'm going back to Norway. I'm gonna listen. I got to get a couple more of these bottles. It's just worth it at this point.
Absolutely.
It's so good too, let me
You
tell
got
you.
you got
Anyways,
you got a hot commodity. So
enough about the whiskey.
as
Let's
as we
let's go.
are enjoying our whiskey, let's talk about our new guilty pleasure,
Girl.
girl, which is the Hulu documentary series, season one, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. That's what we're talking about today on this show. So,
Yes.
and I don't even want to call it a guilty pleasure. I knew that we were going to watch this for work, and watching it for me was work.
Yeah, because you have to
Absolutely.
hang in there
I
and not yell
really
at the scream.
I really, really did. It was challenging towards the end because I don't do well with a lot of like internal friend struggle drama. But like
Right?
towards the end, when the villain changed, I was like, I was in on like the last four episodes. But getting through like the first, four or five, that was challenging for me because
It was
I wanted to wring some necks.
it was so hard for me to stay past episode 5. It
Yeah.
really was. Like I
Mhm.
was like, I hate them. I
Yeah.
hate all of them. That was my immediate thought. Like one, they're not friends. They're not why the show even purported that they were friends is sort of beyond me. And like, here's the thing. I followed Taylor right before all of this drama came out
Mhm.
about like the swinging. Like, let's, I guess, start from there.
You start there because you're the one who kind of explained to me what everything was, and then so we have very different thoughts about like um
Yeah.
this group as a whole. So I know they keep referring back to this swinger situation. But why don't you explain a little bit about that to make sure like I'm on the same page and are so are
Okay.
our listeners.
Okay. So I think it was a year and a half ago, something like that. Around COVID timeframe when all of the adults got onto TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Taylor and all of the women on the show started going viral for the TikToks that they made together. One, because they're cute little dances and they do them really well. Two, they were beautiful women. And three, they were Mormon.
Mm-hmm.
And they made part of their platform being Mormon.
I feel like maybe I'm sure they have a lot of male followers, but they're sexy and safe.
They do have a lot of male followers.
Mm-hmm.
So agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that I always thought was the main girl
Mm-hmm.
was Whitney. So they're all part of this group called Mom Talk, which cringe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they get together in, I guess, a house that they rent and they make a shitload of TikToks and then they post them. And because they're doing it as a group, every single time they post, they all gain followers and like, okay, I totally get that. I see how you use that as a growth thing, but also still cringe. Like I can't even.
Mm-hmm.
It's so. How do you watch these TikToks back? And you're like, yeah, post it. So they're all part of this group of Mormon moms and wives
Mm-hmm.
that do these TikToks. Well, Taylor and her best friend, which I don't think her best friend is in the show.
Okay.
Um, in fact, she's not at all. Her Taylor and her best friend both got married pretty young to their husbands and they started like partying together. And how it started out was they were like drinking and the husbands would dare the wives. It started out with the husbands daring the wives to kiss. And then the next time they partied, well, you should kiss with your clothes off. And then one thing leads to another and they're in a whole ass swinging situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if it was multiple of the Mom Talk women involved. But they made it pretty much like seem that way.
Mm-hmm.
And while the whole group during the show doesn't really like talk about it, Taylor talks about it constantly,
Mm-hmm.
constantly. So basically they became swingers with each other. And then the rule was that you couldn't do stuff without your partner in the room, which as a person who has been a part of that community, that's totally something that is a rule, you
Yeah.
know. So
This
that part made sense to me. But
all
then Taylor cheated.
yeah, all consenting adults to be like,
Right.
this is an activity that is
Yeah.
spicy to us that we do together.
Yeah.
If you go and break that trust and do it without me,
Right.
then
Well,
that is now like a bridge too far.
yeah. So the group crossed those bridges. Like
Mm-hmm.
people started getting feelings for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when everything imploded on TikTok. The drama that went around on Mom Talk about Mom Talk, the hashtag,
Mm-hmm.
was months long, months long. And Taylor like went on live and told everything. And then she went on that Nick Vile podcast.
Mm-hmm. The Vile Files.
I forgot what it's called. The
The
Vile
Vile
Files.
Files. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And told like the every gruesome detail, all of it
Mm-hmm.
about the entire situation. And so that sort of slowed down not only like the business that they were getting, but it caused all kinds of drama
Mm-hmm.
among everybody. And that's kind of how this show came about, was that.
Yeah.
And now here we are on the very first episode. And Taylor is mid-divorce. Whitney is mysteriously moving back from Hawaii after she disappeared, and there was stuff going on with her husband.
Mm-hmm.
The juiciest goss in that area.
Yes.
And they're still trying to do this mom talk thing. So,
Mhm.
as a person who didn't witness that drama as it was unfolding, what do you think?
Um, it's almost Hulu was a little misleading about it because yes, we can all go do our own research, but it's like they refer to it so much and they just really like glaze over it. That they
Yeah.
just like they do a flyby of it. And it's like,
Yeah.
since it's referred to so much, it's like, can we just fir- first of all, I know they did ask a question of like who was involved in that and who wasn't. Because some of the girls were like, we
Yeah.
were just at a party. I didn't even realize. And this one of the girls was like flirting with my husband, and I didn't realize like that's why or what have you. Because a lot of these women are naive. But it wasn't until like the fifth or sixth episode where I could even tell these women apart because they all look alike.
They all look the same, and they even addressed that in the very first episode about
Mhm.
how they get that joke all the time, and it's because they dress alike and they do their hair alike. And literally, the one girl does everybody's hair
Yeah.
for the show
Hmm.
every time they film.
Hmm.
They go to her salon first. So they actually talk about that. And the one girl goes, that's just because we're dressing to style. Like we're just in style.
Yeah, but
Shut up.
I'm sure people will probably feel the same way if you go to LA that there's just like a bunch of blonde. Because I literally wrote a note. I was like, so much lip filler. And I'm not here to judge. I have wanted my lips done. I haven't at time of recording, I haven't done my lips, but it was just more of like they all really look alike. But I coming from California and it's like my beauty standard is
Yeah.
like kind a little tan and blonde. Like, yes, I buy wigs, but they're always all blonde. Like
Yeah.
that is, and even I lighten my natural hair. It's like I feel the most beautiful as a blonde and not my normal natural hair color. So it's like
Yeah.
I can't like there was one of the girls even said I knew I didn't realize how much of a bubble I grew up in because I thought everyone was white and blonde, on the show because
Yeah.
that's exactly who she was surrounded by. So it's like I can't fault them for feeling like that is their beauty standard that they need to uphold because that is what they're surrounded by. And I think geographically that could really like in geographical pockets, like Jersey, New York, mob wife winner, it's
Yeah.
yeah. So I think
But
geographically there are pockets of where different beauty standards are like mostly upheld. So
yeah,
yeah. But
I
yeah,
think they all just wanted to be like good girls for the church. And that's just how they
yes.
all look. Because
Yes.
I've met Mormon women before and they all definitely look like that.
There is a look to them, and I think it's because like your job is to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Because what else do you bring if you're not a hot wife?
So what should we do? Should we go through each character then? Because
I
we've both binged and I feel
Mhm.
like we have certain thoughts about each. I, like you just said, forgot three of them. I don't know who three of them are.
Mhm.
Because I don't have like a takeaway really
Mhm.
about them. But man, do I have some thoughts.
I have thoughts, and like what I just kept coming back to is recently we did do a purity culture episode.
That part.
That was a very deep and significant episode, I feel, for myself as
Yeah.
well as the podcast. And I would recommend anyone to go back. I think it's like maybe 3 episodes ago. It's very recent in our podcast history. And I just kept getting triggered to be like, I'm so glad we did that episode and that I put
Yep.
myself through it to do it, to then be able to, on the other side of that, to be like, oh, girl, like you can see it when you're not in it anymore, is how I really felt about it. So, we can always be like, oh, yeah, they just all kind of look alike. But I was like, there is so many like themed undercurrents into this show. And that's what I was really getting to take away from it. But I think kind of if we talk about each individual girl and their storyline, I think that might be a good way to go. Uh,
Okay.
but okay, so we kind of touched on Taylor. Um, so
I know.
Taylor,
I still have things to say about
yes,
Taylor.
let's start with Taylor because she's kind of like the catalyst of how the show got started, and she's kind of the star of the show, for lack of
Yeah,
a better word. So
sure.
go forth.
I agree. I think she is
Mhm.
the star of the show. Uh she when this show first started, I was just like, God damn it, Taylor. God damn it. Knock it the fuck off. Like, what do you keep doing? She is a victim of her own chaos, is what one of the girls said about
Mm-hmm.
her. And
Mm-hmm.
it is so true. She reminds me so much of myself when I was her age. Like, she wants so bad to discover who she is, but she can't because she was married off too young in the church. And now she's in mom mode. She's had a child with a man that she got charged for domestic violence on. And now they're living together and she's the main breadwinner. It's just like one thing after another. But at the end of the day, I felt like she was actually the most likable one for two reasons. The
Mm-hmm.
first reason is that she actually never talked shit about anybody else in the show. Not
Mm-hmm.
once did
Mm-hmm.
she talk shit about somebody the way we hear some of the other girls talk shit.
Yeah.
And then two, I love how vulnerable Taylor was. Like, Taylor was like, "Yep, this happened. This is what it is." I feel like by owning those experiences and those mistakes, like, she was so much more like, I started out and I just wanted to like sit her down and tell her to shut the fuck up and knock it the fuck off. But
Mm-hmm.
like, people have to go through their experiences. So by the end of it, I was like, "You go, Taylor. Get it together. You're gonna get it together one day. It's not gonna be today.
Yeah.
It's not going to be tomorrow, but in 20 years, you're going to get this." And I know that because that's how long it took me. So hang on, sis.
And
It's
you're,
about to get complicated.
yeah, and you're still learning and going through it,
Yeah. She
and
reminds me so much of me.
mhm. And
God, dude.
I really do commend Taylor for just putting it all out there. And I think she got a lot of blowback on it because everyone else was like, how could you air our dirty laundry? And it's like,
Right.
again, I did not grow up in the Mormon church, but I did grow up in church. And it's always everything behind the back or like, oh, you know what? We need to pray for Taylor because of this. It's like, so it's like that's the way to get around gossiping is like, we need to pray for her. And this is why.
That's
So
crazy.
it felt really like that. But also, it's just like, if you put it all out there and say, yeah, so what? Then like people can't use it as a weapon against you. You're like,
Oh
I
my
own it.
God.
Yeah. Like I've dealt with it, or you should deal with it because there's
Why
nothing you
is
can
it
do
in your
about it.
mouth? Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's like, did she have an affair on her husband? Yes. But did it start with consensual swinging? Absolutely, it did. But also, it's like, go back to our purity culture episode. It's like, even when I date, I'm always like, is this going to be the love of my life? I'm not like, I want to get fucked. Like,
Right.
it's always about love to me. And like
Yeah.
in those episodes, like her and her man's Dakota, it's like if
I think
he,
he's a red flag.
but listen, like everyone's just like, he's an addict. And it's like, okay, is he clean? Is he acting right? And like, no one could forgive him
Yeah.
for experiencing his life and getting clean. It's like they always brought that up. There was no
Mhm.
forgiveness for addiction, which someone else on
Right.
the show was also dealing with an addiction that we'll get to
Yeah.
later. But it's like there was no like grace for him to say, "Oh, I'm so glad you pulled yourself out of it. I'm so glad you came back to the church. I'm so glad that you can now help people that are still going through those same experiences." Because he says, I had God experiences like this. I gave it all to God and he helped me get clean and sober. Yes, excellent. By
Yeah.
all means,
That's
like
great.
whatever. Yeah. And it's like no one could let that go. It's like
No.
everyone just had one eye on him to be like, you're going to fuck up again. It's like, come, like he says, I want to marry you. I want to do all this. Like, yes, did he have red flags? But I was like, was he also trying hard? I will give like
As
Dakota,
far as we could see, yes, he was
he was
trying.
trying. He was trying, and that is like we will like well done. He's not in the doghouse for me personally. So I was just like, he really wants to make it work. I think they just don't know how to because
I
when he says, Taylor's like, I want to drink. And Dakota's like, I don't want to be with someone who drinks. But because these people, all they know how to do is to be in a relationship, they
They
don't know
only need to
like
be a husband or a wife.
that
That's it.
they can't cut it off and say, hey, maybe I'm not the right person for you. But they just want to be in a relationship that they will stay. And this goes for pretty much everyone on the show that does not have a healthy relationship.
Yep.
They will stay because it's like
The culture expects
the
them
the
to.
culture expects them to,
Yeah.
and I really do commend Taylor for not marrying him right away when
Me
she
too.
got pregnant again. And
Yeah.
so I really do commend him to be like, I would rather co-parent with this man successfully than marry someone and make another mistake. Because I was like, it is easier to break off a boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance relationship than it is to get divorced. So if she but again, I was like, first of all, everyone on the show needs so much therapy, but also like to work on herself because she says, I keep pushing him to see if he will stay. And he says, it feels like you're sabotaging this relationship. Like, and I was like, yeah, he's not wrong, you know?
But I don't know. Their whole existence really worries me because Taylor is the breadwinner
Hmm.
in that entire thing. And he when he was moving in, he only had boxes. He had no furniture. Red flag.
Hmm.
He they're constantly breaking up and getting back together, triggering as
Yeah.
fuck,
Yes.
you know? And then
Mhm.
she lost the baby and then went and got pregnant. Bitch, that was the Lord trying to protect you.
Yeah,
And
she
oh
had a
my God,
miscarriage and then she got
this is
pregnant
a
again.
total side note. Ever since we started watching this shit, like all of a
Mhm.
sudden my social media feed is full of their videos, full of them.
They didn't ever come across my timeline, but the Afflecks
Watch,
did. So
watch for it. Oh, the
mhm. The
Afflecks.
Afflecks did. So we'll
We
get
don't
into
like
them and
them.
we'll get into them in a second. But yeah. Um yeah, so Taylor, there's maybe we move on to Whitney next, but with Taylor, I think the girls maybe it just goes to like the sweetness and the fact that you said she never said a single bad thing about anyone else. Like they were
Never.
welcome, and plus she kind of started mom talk, but it's like they
Don't
were
tell Whitney that.
very good to like let her kind of keep her in the group, but also one, I don't know if there's sort of a corporation or LLC or any sort of paperwork. Is there a mom talk page or is it just they post on each other's page? Like these women are not friends, they're coworkers, let's be honest.
They are absolutely, you're so fucking right because they treat each other like shit.
Because the first note I ever took and what you said was with friends like these, who needs enemies? And I was like,
I
do not
couldn't
put this under the
imagine.
guise of being friends, just say we are coworkers. And
Yeah.
it's like towards the end, I felt like it got less toxic and more girl power when
Okay.
a certain like a group member got shunned or whatever. But it was very much like um it's like finally the drama kind of calmed down. I was like, okay, but these women, I was like, they're just have to be honest that they're coworkers. But it's like the money is so good that they can't. It's like going back into an abusive
It is.
relationship. The money is so good,
It's
the perks
so
are so
good.
good that you can't not be in this crappy
Rachel,
situation.
one of them was offered 20 G's
Hmm.
to promote sex toys and
Yeah.
had to think about it. Like, that's how much money that she is making, that she had to think about. If
And
somebody
one
asked me
host.
to
Mhm.
promote sex toys for $20,000, I would make the dirtiest video.
So, okay,
Like, I
are
wouldn't
there
even have to think about it. I would have a video in 3 seconds.
three
Like
seconds? I was like, I already have one in the
20
can.
G's,
There's
please.
to be like you can turn down $20,000. So for are there any more follow-ups on Taylor before we get into Whitney? Because I have thoughts on Whitney.
No, I
Yeah.
listen, I love Taylor.
Mhm.
She was made out to be the villain. She's not. She's just literally
Villainous.
a
Yeah.
kid
Hmm.
trying to fucking navigate her way as a 6-year-old adult. Because isn't she like 26 with
Yeah.
3 kids? Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a 6-year-old adult. This poor girl.
Hmm.
She reminds me so much of myself. If you ever listen to this, Taylor, hang in there.
Yeah.
Hang in there. You
Hmm.
got this.
You're
It
doing
just sucks.
okay. You're
You're
doing
doing
okay.
okay.
Hmm.
You're doing your best, sweetie, and we love it for you. Call me.
Hmm. Yeah.
So Whitney, I hate her.
Whitney. Yes, Whitney. I know she was just like, oh, I didn't like the edit I got. And I was like, that's because you are a
That's the
villain.
edit you gave them, bitch. First and
Yeah.
foremost, they moved to Hawaii. She was like, "We were living in Hawaii, bitch. You were there for 2 months. You weren't living in Hawaii. You were rent. You
Yeah,
were
they
on an
moved
extended
to Hawaii.
vacation.
Yeah, so
Yeah, you
so I
supposedly
guess
moved to Hawaii, but
when
why did you
all
move to Hawaii, Whitney?
when all the swinging drama happened, she was like, I just need to get away from it all. So they quote unquote moved to Hawaii for 2 months. But 2 months is like,
After this,
yeah. So she just needs to
after
get
the
away
swing,
from it all. Yeah, go on.
yeah, she just needed to get away from it all because why? Because during the swinging drama, somebody, one of her close friends, was on vacation in a different city and opened up an app on their phone
Mhm.
and saw Whitney's husband on the phone during this entire thing. And it was a dating app. Okay. And then it was discovered that he was sending photos, naked photos, sexually explicit photos
Mhm.
to other people. Now, Whitney alluded in one of the scenes that it was Tinder. I think it was Grinder, but that's neither here nor there. I think her husband is gay.
It's come out that it has been on grind. He was on Grinder, and it's like one, her husband is absolutely gay.
Her husband is absolutely gay. I've never seen a bigger twink in my life.
The fact that he is just willing to just give her, not the fact that he's just willing to give her everything he wants, but he doesn't say no because he's like, he's not the, it sounds not the man of his house because he's just like, as long as I have this beard, this wife that's trying to be this
Yeah.
perfect Mormon wife, then
Yeah.
everyone's going to think it's perfect. So if she wants to like run away to Hawaii, if she wants to just get away from everything and start a fucking homestead, then of course
Yep.
he's going to just do that.
Yeah. And they were
Mhm.
just in Hawaii for 2 months. And then, oh, I'm just going to come back. Bitch, you came back for this show.
Yeah.
You clout chasing skank. That's what I have to say. She's a clout chasing skank. She's that friend that I'm talking about when I say when you have friends like this, like how what who even needs enemies? There was one scene where she buys the other girl fruity cereal after the other girl like divulged a sexually explicit story from her own marriage
Hmm.
in front of a couple of the girls. She
Hmm.
takes that information back to the rest of the group,
Hmm.
and then Whitney shares the same story to the group and brings out the fucking
Like
present of the
wraps it
fruity
as a
cereal.
present at
Yeah,
during her Galentine's Day party to say, this is for the girls, this is for sexual empowerment, this is just all for you,
she
like no
brings it to
boys.
that, bro.
She brings it to that, and then she kind of laughs at the beginning, and I think it's because you don't know what to do, but she's like, you ruined the whole vibe. And then Whitney's like, why is she even upset? And then she's
She
like,
literally is acting like I can't imagine why she's so upset.
and then Whitney gets all upset and she's just like, I'm just mad at the situation. It's just like, you caused this,
Honestly,
and then you're playing the victim to
nobody
that
cares, you
you
bitch.
upset somebody. Why is she upset at me? It was just a joke. I was like, you should make jokes funny, not malicious.
Yeah,
You
nobody was
wanted to
laughing.
embarrass her, you wanted to shame her.
Yeah. You wanted to shame her. I
Mhm.
actually don't care what happened between that woman and her husband and the cereal. I the
Go
only
forth.
reason I care is because it sounds hot. But like
Yeah.
I don't care for I as a friend, like if somebody did that in front of me, I would have lost it. Not even like knowing what happened, I would have
Hmm.
lost it. That's so no class.
Mm-mm.
No class.
Mm-mm.
Just
'Cause she did
trashy.
it.
Like you're
She did
not
it
a
to embarrass
friend.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, she did it to embarrass her.
Hmm.
And
A
what friend does
big
that?
box of like fruity cereal,
Yeah,
like
huge. It
a
was
huge
big
box.
as fuck.
Hmm.
Like it
Yeah.
looked like it could be a bag,
Yeah.
a
And
purse.
so it's like when she like if you notice the way Whitney starts to dress throughout the show, it's like her collars get higher. Her like she wants to be seen as like better than the other girls because there is this kind of division in the show of like the good Mormon girls and like the not good Mormon girls. The girls who drink and swear and don't wear their garments, and then there's the other ones that are, but it's like you could see her like with her frilly collars and her like garment appropriate clothing. And it's like no one else is dressing like that. And it's like her hair with this hard bob flip at the underneath. Like
Oh my God. What is that?
it's like she wants
I
to be
hate
seen
it.
as like better than all
A
the rest of
Stepford
them.
wife. Bitch, you're married
Absolutely.
to a gay man.
Mm-hmm.
You're married to, and here's the thing. At one point, one of the wives, when she was like making that confession, was like, when people are confused about their sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
she said, like, I can't remember which one it was. I can't remember if it was like Demi or Jess. I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember. But when she said confused about, because I hadn't seen anything confirming that he was on Grinder, but
Mm-hmm.
she said confused about his sexuality. I was like, ooh, he gay.
Mm-hmm.
He's gay. And like,
Um,
I just feel so bad. I feel so bad for both of them in that aspect because I can't imagine what it must be like knowing you are gay and hating yourself so much
because you're not
that
allowed
you're
to be gay.
and being afraid of being yourself, like that you basically like convince yourself that you just need to stay in this relationship with this person who you cannot be in love with.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I'm sure he loves her and they're friends, but like he's not in love with her.
And
It just seems so painful.
absolutely. But there was something that got me about Whitney's storyline at the beginning. Like she's once she left the group, it just the vibe got so much better for me.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
God.
okay. But the one thing I
She
want to
just
talk,
left the group
yeah.
chat and just left it and nobody gave a shit.
And then she's like, why is no one like coming after me? It's like, because you left. And she's like, I'm not invited to things. I'm like, yeah, they're talking about it in the group chat, the mom talk group chat. Like, you're not in that. You didn't want to be a part of this. And then you are
Why are
playing
you
the
acting like a
victim
yeah?
that you got kicked out. And I'm like, you
Wh-
left.
Why
You
are you
left.
acting like a fucking victim?
Yeah. And then
That's
everyone's
what you
surprised
wanted. You
when
know what she
you
wanted? She wanted attention. That's what
she
she
wants
wanted.
attention. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't.
Yeah, she wants
I
attention.
can't
But
handle it.
the thing that got me on Whitney's storyline, which again, it goes back to our purity culture episode, was then so Whitney
Yeah.
got approached with for $20,000 to promote personal
Oh, it was Whitney who
bedroom
got it.
toys. Yeah, personal bedroom
Yeah.
toys. And it's $20,000. And some people are like, I would have to do $100,000. I would do it for $50,000. Do it for $30,000. And then, it's us. We're like, hey, we'll do it for free. Like we're just sex
No, if
positive.
20 G's though, I would do it
20 G's,
immediately. I wouldn't have to fucking think about it.
Yeah. And she really struggled with it. And then she was talking to her mom about it. And so just to be like, hey,
Why?
what do you guys think? Because one, like they're not taught to think for themselves. So they have to
No.
like talk about it with their family and be like, what would you think? But also it's like Whitney said was saying how she wished she understood sex before marriage. So and then it's like, again, back to our purity culture episode, like how sex is so off limits before marriage. And then and they even say this on the show. The girls say they're expected to be whores for their husbands, like immediately thereafter.
Conversation with is it Michaela?
Layla, where
Layla,
she was like,
Layla.
where
She
there was
says that
this
she's never had an orgasm and she has two children.
married 4 years with two kids,
Bitch,
and she's
that's
never.
crazy.
And so with Layla, she said she gets up to the edge, but she's like afraid. And I felt like that too. Like, oh my
Because
gosh,
there's
like
shame.
what's going to happen? And I'm like, this is what a lack of sex education gets you. Like, first of all,
Mhm.
Layla's husband did not care about her pleasure, and
Right?
she thinks it's something that is taboo and runs from it. But those sex positive girls, the divorced ones who are remarried that are like, once you have it, you'll always want it. You'll like all the time. So it's like,
Yeah.
what if she's afraid to know what bad sex is now? You know what I'm saying? But like back to Whitney, what got me is like when she was talking to her mom said, well, you figured it out. Like that's even acceptable, And then she was, her mom said, like, well, I wouldn't do it. I don't think you should do it because, quote, pleasure is a slippery slope. So, like, enjoying sex with your partner would lead you into temptation instead of wanting to have more sex with your partner and making more Mormon babies.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So it's just like, one, I will say it to the day I die, masturbation is the only true form of safe sex. You should know what you like. But also, it's just like, oh, I know it's like, okay, way to say the quiet part out loud, Whitney's mom, of like, you're not having a fulfilling sex life either. Because
Yeah,
temptation is a slippery slope. It's like your man's gets the orgasm,
that doesn't
but
make
like
sense.
they are
Two and
afraid
two
of,
aren't going together.
I know. Yeah. So it's, and like Layla's husband, he's got two kids. He's having orgasms.
He sure is.
Mm-hmm.
He sure is, and does not give a
Mhm.
single fucking shit if she did or not.
Yeah. 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 And then even Whitney said like her her wedding night was like a horror movie. But she's like, and then she backs up and she's like, ha ha ha, like a horror comedy, like a comedy. And so it's just like because no one knows what they're doing. No one knows what they like.
Yeah,
No one
because they're
knows
kids.
what to
Well,
do.
either
They're
they're kids
kids
or the women are kids
who have
and the
had
husbands are adults.
no sexual experience whatsoever. And then they just go 0 to 100. And then I'm sure a lot of them are processing of like, what just happened
Yeah,
to me?
it's shocking to the system
Mm-hmm.
to lose your virginity.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
what anybody says. It is not like one of those things where afterwards you lay and fucking and bask in the glory of dual orgasms.
Yeah.
That's just not how it works. I've never met anybody who's like, yay,
Yeah.
afterwards. Every single
Mm-hmm.
time. It's a little bit traumatic because it is traumatizing to the body, traumatizing
Mm-hmm.
the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
But like some of these girls were kids on their wedding nights.
Yes.
So they
Let's
didn't
talk
know
about
better. Yeah, let's talk
Michaela.
about them. Let's talk about Michaela.
Let's talk about Michaela
She
because
was 16 when she
Michaela
met
was,
her husband.
yep, when they got married, or she got married at 17. She was pregnant at 16, so they were having sex outside of marriage, which is incredibly frowned upon. But her husband was 21. And
Ew.
again, 5 year age difference because one of the Demi's husband, there's a 15-year age gap in their
Oh, I've got
marriage.
things to say about that too.
However, I think a lot of times in the church, I was like, okay, so one, they're not supposed to be having sex, but like, I think Michaela's husband probably did take advantage of her because he was
I bet they
21 and she was 16. And then her parents make her, I'm sure they make it under like, oh, of
marry
course,
her
marrying
abuser.
your abuser and you're married at 17.
I don't know. What if the baby was from soaking?
So why don't you explain to our audience what soaking is?
Soaking is where a Mormon boy gets hard and puts it in a Mormon girl, but he doesn't move. Sometimes motion is provided by a friend jumping on the bed, puts it in. There could be orgasm, there could be not,
And it's
but it's not considered sex because he's not moving. What the fuck? You're fucking.
and it's
You're fucking.
the goalpost is always moving, especially in purity culture, because it's like
In the
it's a
men's
little bit
favor
of
and to
this,
the detriment of women.
it's a little bit more of this. Okay, I'm like, then you could say, oh, I've done everything but. And then I've heard that it's like, well, anal sex isn't traditional sex, so I can
And
absolutely do
yep, I've
that.
heard that
And it's
too.
always something more to get what you want to like circumvent these rules of like, you shouldn't be doing anything.
So
And then
crazy.
it's like these Mormon parents, and who knows, like if they were super pious, but I'm like, they got young and maybe they didn't understand what they were doing. But then they act like that is the best way to do it. It's like, well, I had to suffer, so you better, that's just your duty is to suffer too. Because if
I
people stop
mean,
suffering, then it's like, oh, then why did I have to suffer? It's just like this shared trauma of like, oh, they just that's just the way it is. Like they
but
don't want
this
to
is
change
a,
it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. This is a grown ass adult man
Mm-hmm.
knowing fucking better,
Yeah.
sleeping with a 16-year-old, whether it was
Mm-hmm.
soaking or not.
Mm-hmm.
He had to absolutely convince her to do that. He
Mm-hmm.
absolutely did. And then her parents, because it's the church,
To save face.
to save face, forced their child to
Mhm.
marry her abuser. That man disgusts me. This
Her
couple disgusts me. I hope one
f
day she turns 35, 40. That's usually around the age we realize what abuse was. I feel like I don't know what it is about this age, but we're like,
Mhm.
oh, that was abuse.
Yeah.
Oh, I was raped at that point. Like
Mhm.
we sort of start seeing. I feel like she's not going to see it for a while because she is so young. Isn't she like 22, 23
Yeah,
now?
her frontal cortex still is not fully developed.
Oh, absolutely
And I
not. And
wonder
because of the trauma
on the
of
show,
having
she looks very
cancer.
sickly and she does have health problems. I'm like, I
She
wonder if this
does.
is all this internalized emotion that she cannot get out, that like the doctors don't know what's wrong with her.
The doctors do not know what's wrong with her.
Mhm.
She has had trauma. There's
Mhm.
trauma fucking up her brain, and it is physically showing
Mhm.
in her health. Like you can see it, the sunken in eyes, the dark circles, the rashes she gets on her skin. Like it just makes me it is infuriating to watch
Mhm.
how sickly and unhealthy she is. And it if the doctors don't know what it is, bro, it is psychosomatic. It is that trauma trying
I
to be released from the
I
body.
think if she divorces her husband in another 20 years, it'll just clear right up.
I bet she'll be so healthy and so hot.
Be like, oh, all of your immune issues
Maybe she'll
are
even leave
gone.
the church because that shit is I cannot imagine being a part of that church. It makes no sense to me. I don't understand it, but like it just seems so abusive to the women.
Absolutely. And a lot of them are fighting against it. And you could see how their parents, the other husbands, are like, well, I don't like that. I don't like that. Or, kind
Yeah.
of trying to put these women back in their place when there was a question asked of them, like, who is the breadwinner in their relationships? And all of them raised their
All of
hands.
them.
All of
Yeah.
them. They are the breadwinners.
Yeah. They're making and that is so against what the Church of Mormon is for. Like women shouldn't be the breadwinners. If they're going to work, they definitely shouldn't be making more than the men.
Yes. So I don't think we need to really get into all of them, but I think who we do need to talk about next is absolutely Jen and Zach Affleck.
The Afflecks,
Because we're going to talk about the
Ben
men
Ben's cousin,
somehow,
second cousin.
but
They
also
have the same last name.
there there is no other Jen on this show, but every time she is on the screen, she's the only one that ever gets her last name on the screen.
Shut up. Are you
You
serious?
notice?
I didn't
Mhm.
notice that.
Yep. So there's not another Jen to distinguish. So they're like cashing in on this last name of Affleck, which is like second cousins once removed or something. I'm not exactly sure, but they're not like going to the family reunions together. If they do have to be distantly related, I'm like, just say it's a similar name. But so the whole thing, this is how I really felt about this show. For an example, when I was watching Game of Thrones and we're like, I fucking hate Joffrey so much. I don't think I can
Word.
hate anyone more than I hate Joffrey.
But
And then
then
Joffrey dies. And then they introduce us to Ramsay Bolton. And I was like, somehow I hate this person more than I ever hated Joffrey Baratheon. So it's just like, but thank God they didn't have these edits where it's like, I didn't have enough hate in me to hate both of them at the same time, or else I would have shut the whole thing off, right? So
mhm.
it's like, we really hate Whitney, and she is a drama victimizing, self-victimizing
Just the
bitch.
worst kind of
Absolutely,
friend to
she's
ever
awful.
have.
And when she
But
left the friend
then,
group, I was like, wow, I like this friend group so much better.
yeah.
I think the vibe is so much better. They even admit it. But then the true victim, the true villain of this show
Ugh.
rears his ugly motherfucking bleach
And
hair head.
I want
And
to
it
make
is Zach
comments.
Affleck.
I want to make comments on his appearance. You weird ass looking Aryan motherfucker. You draconian what was their last name in Game of Thrones? Who just
Oh, Targaryen
ugh,
looking
the
motherfucker.
Targaryen looking motherfucker. First of all, okay, I'm just gonna keep asking you because you memorize everybody's name. Do you remember the other Mormons that were on TV with all of the wives? Cody Brown.
Oh yeah, like
Literally, this man is
sister
a
wives.
Cody Brown 2.0 if I've ever fucking seen one. First of all, cut your fucking hair. Cut your hair, you bitch.
Well,
Second, we can all tell that you are over 6 feet tall and have the confidence of a gremlin. I don't like him. I don't like the way he looks. I don't like his fucking whole vibe. He just seems like give me the baby. I made this. You go do the dishes kind of man. Like, gives nothing to, as far as credit goes, to his woman. Does not give a shit about her personality or her what she deserves as a woman. Like,
mhm,
he doesn't give a shit.
mhm.
And it makes him ugly on the outside. He's a reptilian looking Lego shaped jar of mayonnaise.
So yeah, if Mayo was walking around, it would be him. But because he had to do damage control after the show aired, his hair is short. It is styled. Like he is going through his own little renaissance of like and damage control publication because
I hate
his
him so much.
grandfather was a surgeon, his father is a surgeon, he's going to medical school because he has a legacy. So I was like, this man has never worked a day in his life. And I don't even know if he wants to be a surgeon. He just has to be a surgeon
Yeah.
because that is what
He
is
probably isn't
expected of
even smart
him.
enough. He's probably not even smart enough, to be honest, to be a surgeon. I'm sorry. He's probably not. He's probably the idiot of the fucking family.
He looks it. But here is let's just not on looks alone, but on character, why we hate Zach Affleck. Because
And you know what?
he,
I
he
hate
is
Jen peripherally because she's going to stay married to him.
I don't hate Jen peripherally.
Oh, I
I
do.
feel bad for her
I'll tell
because
you
I
why.
think there is like this culture in the Mormon of like why she doesn't. But go on.
Uh, the phrase when she described where they are socioeconomically, she said that her mother
Mhm,
cleans rooms in the hospital,
mhm,
that her husband's father is the chief surgeon at,
mhm.
right? She put it that way. Then, bitch, why is your income the breadwinner?
Do you mean
Like,
she should be supporting her mother as well?
first of all, no. Why are you using your husband's family's socioeconomic economic level as a bragging point, and
Hmm.
then in the same fucking breath telling us that your mom is a fucking immigrant who's cleaning the rooms, all while you are bankrolling this man's bills and medical school.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's like it I don't she's never going to leave him.
Mm-mm.
So he is clearly using her
Hmm.
for her beauty and her money at this point now.
Yeah.
And he's a narcissist. And it's like every time he talks, I get triggered.
Yes. So there was a scene on this show where they're all doing this girls' trip to Vegas. This is literally, again, they're coworkers. This is her job to do, to go and make content. And so you know, I think she said, oh, she says after the fact that she convinced him to go. But he is one of the more controlling husbands. When they do a baby blessing, he's like, I don't want the bad Mormons to go. You know,
The bad
the
Mormons.
bad Mormons, the ones who drink. So it's
But
like,
he's in
again,
Vegas gambling.
whatever the man wants goes. So again, gambling is a sin in the Mormon church. And so, and again, he knows he's on camera. There are cameras right in front of him in his face. And he says, oh, you're going to get like I need money to gamble. And she's like, I'm going to give you $2,500, but if you lose it, I'm going to be upset. But I think if she had ever told him no, like if say that the tables were turned or whatever, and she's just like, say he's the breadwinner, and she's like, I want $2,500 to go shopping in Vegas, and he could have been like, no, as the head of the household, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
So it's like
But
I think
because
she
she's not.
because I think Zach is one of these like quote unquote typical Mormon men who like
Yep.
again, they're the only ones who can get the priesthood blessings. They're the only ones who can bless a baby. You know, the priesthood only goes to them. There is no female leadership within the Mormon church. And so
Right.
it's like they look down on their women. And so, but it's like, even though he is living off, she's paying all of their bills. And she literally said, I make more money than he ever will as a surgeon. And then he's like, oh, like, you're going to give me $2,500 to gamble. And she's like, yeah, I will. But she's like, don't lose it. And then on the show, they were like, can we talk about Zach's gambling? And she's like, yeah, as long as you don't make him look like a addict, which again, this is the addict behavior that we were talking about earlier in the show, which is fine. However, he shouldn't be doing that anyways. And then it came out that he was gambling till like almost 2 in the morning. And they were just like, I shouldn't have said that. It's like everyone is telling on everyone. Like, if you shouldn't be gambling, you shouldn't be gambling in the first place. If he is an addict, everyone seems to show a lot of grace to Zach because his family is so financially and politically like tied in. But also, and this I love Demi because she was just like, we are standing on business and I am
Oh,
not gonna put
Demi was,
anything in the fucking closet anymore. She was like, I know that his family gave him a chunk of money from generational wealth to pay for his medical school for their bills so they could just live off that. And
yep,
then they could just like to ease the burden of going through medical school. And she's like, and he blew through it.
yep.
So again, he could be in control of the finance of the house, but he blew through all of his money gambling and is dependent on her and then tells Jen, like, we're going to move to New York for medical school. But she's like, well, what if you take a year? And she has really valid concerns of what if I cannot provide if I'm
Yeah.
not in this group? And
But he doesn't give a shit.
he literally says, I don't care. He's
Yep.
living off, she is bankrolling their whole lives. And he's like, I
Yep.
don't care. And when they go to Vegas, she's like, oh, wouldn't it be funny? What if we went to like a Magic Mike show or whatever? And he says, it's really hard to be divorced with 2 kids.
He's lost his
Like
fucking
at the
mind, man.
second, like her eyes aren't on him. So again, like Jess, one of the girls, she surprises everyone. This is a situation where I was like, she did nothing wrong. Jen did absolutely nothing wrong. She was taken to Chippendales without her knowing before where they were going. She was visibly uncomfortable. Her eyes were looking down. She did not engage in any of the
Yeah.
performers beforehand. Like Layla, the single girl, they were oiling them up. They were having a good time. And the women who were like interacting and with the performers, like their husbands were like, I trust you. It's fine. Like whatever.
Yeah.
But like one, she was there without her consent, without her knowledge. She was like, okay, I'm not even here. I'm not cool. And then she
I
expresses
know.
her thing and then says, I'm going to leave. But her husband is like, I'm going to divorce you. How dare you? Like, this is not what good
Anything
Mormon
he can
women
use
do.
against her.
Anything. And she is
Anything.
bawling. And he is texting her because he doesn't want, because you can't talk on your phones at the table.
Nope.
So that's why he's not taking her calls, but he's texting her all night and he's just saying like I'm going to divorce you, I'm going to
And
take the kids, I'm going to
at
be
the
he has to move back to his mom's house. I was like, I would have been like, you know what, do it,
my
say
also
what you're going to do
also
because
what a pussy, because he was probably texting from a table that he was losing all of her money at, and
mhm,
that's why he was upset, and that's why he was taking it out on her, because he
mhm,
is a narcissist if
mhm.
I've ever fucking seen one. Zach was so goddamn triggering for me to watch,
He
and I just
really
want to
was.
like, hey idiot, get out of there, because it's, you have the money, you have the power, don't go with him to New York. But you know what, she's already gone with him to New York.
Yeah. And this is why in the girl group turned and I was like, yes, this is the vibe that I am here for
Yeah.
because the 2 girls that I really loved the best at the end were Demi and Jess. And these are the
Yeah.
women who were divorced. These women have second marriages that really kind of know what they wanted and they weren't going to compromise on. They were more of like the Jack Mormons or what have you because they were, or the bad Mormons because they do drink. They are empowered and they don't like hide the fact that they enjoy sex with their husbands. They are both
Yeah.
married. They seem both
Yeah.
very happily married. Jen, or Jesse, she has a whole empire.
She
Yes,
does.
badass.
I
We're
love
here about
that.
it. But they were so they all go out to dinner. Jen finally comes back, joins them later, and she says, "Yes, we were still working stuff out." But they're like, when you talk about them, they can literally see Jen disassociate from the situation,
Yep.
which I was like, that is super triggering for me because I used to be there as well. But also the
Yep.
fact that they are just reading Zach up and down
For
and they're being
filth.
honest with their girl to be like, he is not a good husband. If your daughters were in a relationship like
Yep.
this, would you want them to be in a relationship like this? Get out before it's too late. And I was like, I would go to war
Yeah.
for those two women right now because they
Yeah,
are
because
absolutely right. And I know
they
Jen is
are.
not in a situation where she is going to leave her husband. She hasn't been through it enough, because again, I don't want to say brainwashing, but it's also that culture you grew up in where it's like, that's not what good girls do.
Oh
Blah, blah,
God.
blah. What will everyone think of me? These women are so afraid what everyone else will think of them,
Literally
that
terrified.
it's like to their detriment, to their death, practically. And
Yeah.
so it's just like, I know I was like, those girls, they're not trying to break up your marriage for drama. They are trying to
To protect
save
their
you.
friend.
And they said,
Yep.
we love her so much, and he just dims her light. And it's like, that is not the type of
Dude,
man
as
we
soon as a
want.
friend says, like, that is the biggest thing. If a friend is telling you
Mhm.
he is dimming your light, bro, you are in a narcissistic relationship. It could kill you. Get the fuck out of there. Because that's exactly, I could actually, in my last marriage, could feel my light dimming. I could feel it every single time he berated me or every single time I quote unquote did something wrong or quote careless. Like it was just like a dimming of the light. And so for them to put it that way, it was just like, okay, they give a fuck about you. Get the fuck out of there, you
And
idiot.
and you could tell where she was just trying to like smooth things over with her husband
Yeah.
because she was like, "Oh, he didn't come. He's has the flu. I have to like as soon as like they
Yeah.
launched, she just like did all of her like duties and she like left." And everyone's like, "Get the fuck out of here. That's such a like, yeah, yeah, Zach's sick. Get the fuck out of here."
Sure.
And then she didn't go to like this other girl's birthday because she was sick. And we're just
No,
like
it's her, it's
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 coded and
Zach.
it's like, no, he's he wants to keep you. She did nothing wrong. He was the
Right.
one doing things wrong,
Yep.
gambling, ruining the whole trip for everybody.
Yep.
And then it's like he is keeping, she probably had to go to that party for her friend because she's contractually obligated through the show to go. And then she's like, as soon as she could leave, she was like, okay, I gotta go. Love you guys. Bye. And it's just like, oh man. Because Layla, the one who was divorced, and it's just like she had a divorce death party, which was so
I
great. Like
love
she was
that.
released out into the wild. She is so hot.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, because not Cody, I'm so sorry. Another Mormon dude. But like Zach, he doesn't want her around her to see how good life can be on the other side. To be like, oh, you can do it. Because she has the means to live alone. She has the means to have her children. And I think, and there was even a scene where when a girl came over to Jen's house, she was like, "Is your house always this clean?" And
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh yeah, Zach's like gets really upset. He has OCD." But I'm like, I'm sure he's not the one cleaning the house. So
No, he's
it's
not.
so it's like
He
my
says
heart
too that
worries
he's
about
got
her.
OCD.
What's that?
He says too that he has OCD. Like
Yeah, and that's
likes
why
the
the house
house
has to
clean.
be clean. Like she has to clean it
Yeah.
like for him or
But
else
it just
he's gonna
sounds
judge
like
it.
that to me reads like, oh, because you probably psychologically berate her when it's
Mhm.
not immaculate.
Yes. I was married to a man with OCD. He
Yeah.
cleaned it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, this is how you want to live. Go forth. But like, you not going to
Go
put me,
forth.
go forth. You're not going to put me into it. And he cleaned to his standard. And I was like, great. I have a very clean house. Go like, yay. That's how it should be. But
Yeah.
she's like, oh, he's not very pleasant. And so it's just like, oh, this sounds very psychologically abusive,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's, and then when he said he didn't want people going like the bad Mormons coming to his baby blessing, I was like, yeah, but he's inviting them over to like suction boogers out of his baby's face to teach him how to be a good father. Get the fuck out of here.
Get out of here.
You're just so it's like I think she's making excuses for him, and it it is so triggering, and it just feels so very abusive. But again, it's like you're so intertwined with how quote unquote good girls are that you don't want to be a bad girl. You don't want to be
It's
divorced because you're not going to you're sealed in the temple. So it's like divorce is so bad that it's like she wants to be with her family in the celestial kingdom in Mormon heaven, you know?
God,
And
I
it's
have
like
so
if
many
heaven
thoughts
is
about that
all it is,
alone.
it's like then this
It's
life is
all so
temporary.
abusive. It's
Yeah.
all so abusive.
It
Two
was
women. There's a lot of internalized misogyny that I saw throughout the
mhm.
entire season.
Yeah.
That part is really triggering and really sad.
Yeah.
It sucks that the Mormon church, the church really as a whole, but like the Mormon church really puts a lot of the onus on the women for so much of that purity culture. And I think that's got to be where that internalized misogyny comes from. But like to see their relationship for me and like where I was, it's just like this is hard to fucking watch. This guy, if she doesn't do one thing right, he's gonna be berating her for hours.
And one thing that I also noticed that that I think every single one of these women did was the internal guilt that they always felt to be in a
Yes.
situation. It was like, oh, because I put myself in this situation. It was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like back to the purity culture episode that we did. I was like, when I was sexually assaulted, I thought it was my fault for being
Your fault. That's
there.
exact
And it's like
internalized
you
misogyny.
can see all of this internalized misogyny and guilt that they have that it's like, oh yeah, it was my fault that I let them take me there. It was my fault
Yeah.
of like my part in this,
Yeah.
you know, when like
I should have had better judgment. I should have not
yeah,
done this. It's so fucked up,
it's like
dude.
they think that everything is their fault when it's not. And I'm sure like Jen, she felt like, oh, we're having this fight because it's my fault. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you're having this fight because it's Zach is insecure.
As fuck.
hmm
As
It's
fuck.
like
He's insecure
with
as fuck.
Taylor and Dakota, she was just like, oh yeah, like, well, like I fight with him too. It's everything is always like, oh, it's always like their fault first.
Mhm.
Is how it felt. And that was very, very triggering to me as well. So it was
So
just,
hard.
oh my God. This
It's so hard
fucking
to watch.
show.
This fucking show, dude.
Mm,
It's
mm.
it's
Any,
one of those that like really mirrors. It'll mirror for you the worst choices
mm,
slash worst parts, I feel like, of so many women's lives. If
it,
you're a woman of a certain age,
mhm.
it is triggering of maybe previous choices that you've made, previous events in your life, previous relationships, it's just like triggering on so many different levels for women of a certain age, anywhere from I feel like in our age group 40 to 60, I feel like is when we really our brain sort of like does one of these oh fuck
Because
kind of
we,
like moments.
like, even with
And this
you,
is what
with the
this
Taylor
is.
situation where you can look back and be like, oh, once you're out of it, you can look back when they say hindsight's 2020. It's
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
Jen right now, to me, she can't see the forest through the trees.
No, she
She
can't.
still has hope. When it all
Yeah,
falls
poor thing.
apart, if
Yeah.
he doesn't like smother her emotionally to like dim her
Yeah.
light totally, where she just becomes
Yeah.
Stepford wife zombie. If she
Yeah.
does get out of it, she's gonna be like, oh my God. And then she will be the Jessie to someone
Yeah.
else to be like, hey.
Yeah. Because a lot of women don't come out of it,
Because I always
especially when they
say
get married that young.
you need to leave at the first pink flag, first
Yeah.
red flag. But it's hard to leave a marriage. And that's why I like really commend Taylor to be like, she's not going to go in it until she's sure.
Yeah. Thank
So,
God. Thank
yeah.
God. At least she's got that kind of foresight.
Yeah. But I would say after Whitney's out of the group, like those girls, like it just felt so much better
Yeah.
to me. And I enjoyed watching this show, the back half. And I was like, girl, you were so dumb. Because like I'm here for women empowerment, but it's like when there is a snake in the grass,
Oh, she was
we
so
don't need
sneaky
that.
too. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like I don't like women like her. It
No.
sucks too because I want to love every woman, but I just like know that there are women like her. That I actually think like sometimes the internalized misogyny gets so bad that that's what happens. They become, instead of like supporters of one another, instead of like a sister in the sisterhood, they more become a snake in the grass and work for the white male patriarchy agenda. And that's
Ex-
kind of like what
ex-
she was there doing. You
exactly. And she
know,
was just
bitch,
like,
your
there's,
husband's gay, bro. Your husband's gay.
and the whole thing is like with Whitney was like, oh, there's so much drama, so much drama. Bitch, you're causing the drama.
Yeah.
And then after she left, the only drama was the dumbass husband's making the drama.
Which I'm glad that they switched focus to sort of like highlight and spotlight how it actually is the husbands creating a lot of that drama, bro.
Hmm.
A lot.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
are you
God.
ready for season two? I'm sure it's gonna get greenlit.
I wonder what's going to happen, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I
They left us
really
on a
do.
cliffhanger.
They did leave us on I was like, it was about to like, you know how it asks if you want to like load the next episode?
Mhm.
It just went straight into a commercial for a new TV show. And I was like, what
Wait,
the
what?
fuck? You're
Yes.
not going to tell me
So
what happens? I got to leave on that?
my favorites were Demi, Jesse, and Macy. And those are the three
Okay.
people with their own careers
Yeah.
that were divorced, that had second husbands or marriages or whatever. And I was like, yeah, yeah, I'm here for them. I'm here for it.
Okay. Well, my takeaway is the
Hmm.
honest question game, because that was the most dramatic episode I've ever witnessed. And it
Yes.
was supposed to be anonymous questions. However, if
Hmm.
you watch closely, each girl writes their questions on a different colored piece of paper. And if you're really paying attention, Whitney wrote on blue pieces of paper,
Hmm.
and they asked Whitney the questions from the blue pieces of paper. And one of those questions was something like about like, are you jealous of Taylor because of how much clout she gets, or some shit like that?
Hmm.
Some crazy shit. So this
Yeah.
is supposed to be a game where they're
Hmm.
asking each other anonymous questions, and this bitch asked herself a question.
Hmm.
So conniving, sneaky, trashy,
And
fake as fuck. You're married to a gay man. Get out
and
of here.
and
So
when
I hope they attack that, confront that on the next season.
I think so because she had stuff to say about Taylor up and down, sideways.
Yeah, dude.
But then Taylor's like, "Hey, if I did something, let's confront it like for the sake of the group again." Like,
Yeah.
and then she was like, "No, it's fine. We could just leave it the way it is." It's like, "No, we literally can't."
No, we
And then
can't.
she just runs away and then plays this victim when it's like you have the chance to actually do the airing of the grievances,
Yeah.
to
This is where you
actually
have it.
do that. And she's just like, no, no, there's nothing that needs to be talked about. It's like, no, but everyone else says there is, you know.
But everybody thinks that there is. You bitch.
So the fact that she removed herself from that conversation, and even though she felt it like
Embarrassing.
a victim about it, I was like, okay. And then, everyone unfollowed her, and it's like, yeah, that's what you get. And why did
That's what
no one
she
come
gets.
after me? Because no one wants to be your friend because you are a shitty friend and
Because
co.
the minute you removed yourself, everybody felt like a weight lifted off of the group because you're kind of a bitch.
Yes, 1,000%, 1,000%. So I'm gonna watch the second season. I'm going to, even though it was a
Oh,
little
we are
triggering, but I was
absolutely
like, I'm
watching.
here for it. Yeah.
We're
So
absolutely watching the second season. Are you kidding me?
kidding me. We'll have to wait another year for
Absolutely.
it. But I see you shuffling
Absolutely.
those cards, girl.
Yeah, I've
I,
been shuffling.
I
We ready for
know.
this?
We are ready. So think that was the whiskey bent portion of the show. And now we were transitioning into the spellbounding portion where Jackie
Yeah,
did a
indeed.
3 card tarot pull.
Yeah.
See what spirit has in store for us
Here's
today.
the thing. I don't know if this read is going to be about this. I've been going through some personal shit that I've
Oh.
been thinking about. You know about it. And
Mhm.
like, it's like one of those things where I don't know if it might be tainted a little bit from my personal shit because it's like weighing heavy in my energy. But we've been talking some straight shit about some of these ladies. So we'll find out. You know what I'm saying?
We'll
That kind of
see.
energy really is heavy.
It's a reading for somebody. So we'll
Oh, it
see.
is. I hope it resonates with somebody beside. I hope it doesn't resonate with me at all because I really don't feel like getting yelled at
I don't need spirit to yell at me.
by Samira. Okay, so the first one is the Knight of Swords.
Knight of
The
Swords.
Knight of Swords. And it's upright.
Okay.
It's upright, and it has to do with like speed and like knowing exactly what you want. The idea of power um is overwhelming and present in the Knight of Swords. So like maybe like a goal, like
Hmm.
an end state. Ooh, which I feel like it could be either me or you as far as like this, but somebody is thinking about a goal, a big end state. Like this is like all of their ambition, all of their focus. This has a lot to do with like speed and like accomplishing your goals quickly.
Hmm.
Uh, but there's also like a warning about your unconscious belief that obstacles come with like consequences.
Hmm. Maybe spirit's yelling
Then,
at me today.
I don't know, dude. Because remember, I've been thinking about doing some things that might change the trajectory of my
Mhm.
career. And like we brainstormed, we did all of those ideas, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I don't want to go at something too fast, you know?
Yeah,
So,
because we do.
because we do go uh head first into everything. The second one is the 7 of Cups, but it's inverted.
Mm.
And inverted has to do with like temptation and confusion about like what the next steps might be. So sort of like a warning, like you know what your final goal is, but like be careful in your approach to it. Do things rationally, and don't use this as like a diversion or a temptation.
Mhm.
All that glitters is not gold.
Mhm.
And temptation can drag you into ruin as far as like accomplishing. I think that's what it has to do with accomplishing your goal. And then the final the final card is the Tower card.
Mhm.
And the Tower card is also reversed. Um so like the tower card has to do with like a big giant change and it could be negative. But when it's inverted, it's like delaying disaster. But it might be a warning against a fear of like suffering
Mhm.
from your choices. So kind of I feel like another warning card, like you have you have all of these like big goals and you're afraid of some of the obstacles. And that might actually bring on a sort of like a fear of suffering, or like maybe this big goal is not something that you would normally go after.
Mhm.
And so you're like super afraid of failing and suffering because of it. And like you're just thinking about like how do I avoid the disaster? How do I avoid the disaster? Um I really think that that has to be looked at in a different way. I feel like I'm trying to communicate that you can like get through the suffering if you consider it a lesson and don't consider it suffering. Like be thankful for that lesson, because if you're not thankful for that lesson,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get to this big, big goal that you're thinking of and that you're like ruminating on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel like those are the cards. And it doesn't have, I don't know if that has anything to do with these Mormon wives. I think it might have everything to do with, I don't know. I don't know if it's like reflecting on me and how I'm trying to move forward in some big goals. I don't know if it's reflecting on you directly as well, because you're moving forward with some big goals and thinking about uh obstacles that you might have, and you might have a fear of delayed disaster, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that I feel that way when it comes to like the big goals that I'm thinking about going forward with. And I feel like it could probably really speak to anybody who has some really big goals in their life, that they're like, oh, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna fucking do it.
I
That's what I'm
I'm
getting
really
from.
getting something from this reading today.
I am too,
Yeah.
right? Like
Spirit, you always call us out on the bullshit.
really, like I don't want to talk about some of this shit, Spirit, but if you want to talk about it, I guess you're gonna
Spirit
talk
will
about it.
Spirit won't let us bury it.
Nope,
Mm,
not ever.
no. Mm-mm.
Not ever. It's
Ma'am.
like, what can you
Spirit.
learn? What are you trying to keep at bay? What can you learn from that rather than trying to avoid it? Because that is coming to you so that you can hit that big goal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, whoa.
I got
So
chills
loud.
on that. I
So
love when I
loud.
get that kind of download so loud. I got yelled at right now. Did you get yelled
I
at?
just got yelled at.
I got yelled at.
Oh, our next pre-prod meeting. It's going to be a good one.
It's gonna be a good one.
Oh, Jackie, what excellent spellbounding. Thank you, Spirit.
I guess. I guess. Thanks.
Thanks.
Jesus.
Thank you. But also, thank you to everyone who joined us on this another fantastic and fabulous episode on Whiskey Bent Ann
Spellbound with black.
and Whitefield. And be sure to also join us over on our Patreon for early release episodes and very fun bonus content. It's $3.95 a month plus tax.
So
And
much personal details
so
on
much
that
personal.
Patreon.
That's
Like literally all of them.
That's where the good stuff is. And the link is
Really.
linked in the show notes below. But until then, Plinkies.
Twinkies. Love you. Bye.